How are you all responding to the claim that by voting yes for 2A, that Pueblo citizens are giving the Board of Waterworks a blank check?
I just want to say, I think the only blank check is the one coming out of our current utility provider. They seem to be writing as many blank checks as they think they can buy the city election. And I think the Pueblo citizens need to send the message that our city election is not for sale.
That blank check, it's just sort of a ludicrous argument. I mean, the number I used before, the $868 million, of that, only about $334 million was for assets that Black Hills actually has. Another $400 million of that was for stranded costs if we didn't take the generating station. So there's a whole bunch of play there. So that's why I say that's the top. It's not a blank check. The amount we're going to pay for these assets, and make no mistake about it, if we have the political will to go through this, at the end of the day, we will own those assets that Black Hills Energy has now. We'll have to pay for them just compensation. And that'll be determined not by Black Hills, that'll be determined by appraisers and experts, and it'll be decided by a judge or a jury in Pueblo County. So there's not going to be able to put blue sky in there and all those kind of things that Black Hills might wish they would have gotten, because we're not buying a going concern, but we're buying their assets. If Black Hills wants to maximize their value, they need to sell a going concern, but they've been unwilling to do that. They say we're not for sale. So that's where we're at this point.
When people talk about a blank check, what they fail to do is to look at the feasibility studies. And that's what's unfortunate about all of the rhetoric that's going back and forth, whether it be on the internet or in conversation. Again, this scare tactic that there's a blank check and it's going to ruin us if we spend that much money, or whatever those arguments are. The feasibility study clearly set out costs on municipalization, whether we do the Pueblo only option, whether we do the Pueblo County option, or whether we do the system-wide option. Those numbers were spelled out completely. The Board of Waterworks, governed by a board, an elected board, would never, ever commit political suicide by going out and saying, we're going to spend $2 billion on something that's worth 800 million, or we're going to spend 800 million on something that's worth 400 million. That would never happen.
But this idea that there's a blank check, I think that's being promulgated by people who wanted to repeat the mistakes that Boulder made. When Boulder started this, they put numbers on the ballot so that you can spend an amount not to exceed such and such. And I refuse to do that, because that just gives Black Hills a number to shoot for. That's a target that they aim at. And once they make you spend that, then you have to stop and you have to go back to the voters. As a result of that, Boulder has had 5 municipal elections on this. So we're trying to avoid those kind of mistakes. We're not giving them the water board a blank check. We're putting this decision in the hands of business people who are elected by the people to make a rational judgment that's in the best interest of the community. And as Mark said, they're not going to go out and commit political suicide by spending 2 or 3 times what the assets are worth.